But another anomaly was that the bismuth magnesium layer...
Basically, I've exhausted every resource that I have ever tried to use in the past.
Where it talks about not made by human hands, not of this earth, and so on.
These are 13 pages of typed notes written by Dr. Eric Davis in 2002 when he was a member of the National Institute of Discovery Science, that's NIDS, owned and managed by billionaire Robert Bigelow.
One of his pieces that we looked at together when I visited was magnesium bismuth.
Bismuth layers of less than a human hair, supposedly picked up in the crash retrieval of an advanced aerospace vehicle.
And study pieces of material that may have been stashed away for decades after being retrieved from the sites of close encounters. Elizondo says there are legitimate reasons why the military and now private groups are in a race to figure out these materials.
There is a ranch in Nevada less than 80 miles from Area 51 that was secretly researched by Bob Bigelow's original Skinwalker Ranch team of psychic spies. For decades, while simultaneously researching Skinwalker Ranch, the NIDS team was searching for the lost entrance into a giant cave system of ancient alien artifacts. An abandoned alien mining operation leading to a 500-foot underground pyramid hiding a UFO nicknamed the Mount Wilson Manta Ray. For thousands of years, indigenous people have known and protected its secrets. For decades, top-secret government teams, even before Ronald Reagan's Star Wars program, were scouring the ranch attempting to recover the metamaterials, biological material, and ancient unknown artifacts, and were stopped by an explosion of paranormal activity. Animal mutilations, alien abductions, poltergeist activity, moving orbs of light and shadow figures, strange glitches in time, and the ghost of a Native American shaman appearing along with 3 extraterrestrial beings who protect the land. Now, new leaked whistleblower evidence has confirmed the truth behind these local legends. New ancient artifacts are being discovered, and mysterious energy is transmitting from the meadow, and an undiscovered tunnel entrance has been found. Independent researchers, scientists, archaeologists, and Native American historians have joined me, Carl Crusher, to uncover the truth. We are on a mission to find the lost entrance into the underground and uncover the real mystery of Mount Wilson Ranch. What's up, guys? I'm getting ready to head up to Mount Wilson again this weekend, but I did a live stream on Friday where I updated everybody about the UFO metamaterials, UFO crash recovery program. Joe Rogan's been coming out with podcasts and guests who have been talking to Jacques Vallée and other people. And I keep trying to tell everybody that there's only one place that we know of that has more historical photographs and evidence and records going all the way back into this UFO crash recovery program with all the people and the places, the names and the dates lining up. And that's Mount Wilson Ranch in Nevada, just a little bit over 80 miles north of Area 51, before Area 51 was even created. I did a whole live stream, a whole show about this, but for some reason, the entire live stream, my video was blurry, my video was out of sync with the audio. So what I've decided to do is take the audio from that entire live stream and cut really cool graphics and visual information and the actual historical pictures and evidence over top of that audio, and I'm gonna republish it right now so that instead of just hearing me talk about it with a blurry face and all of this disruption, you get the full presentation with all of the historical facts and the clips inserted to enjoy. So here you go.
I've been doing a lot of work from up at Skinwalker Ranch all the way across to the Grand Canyon, down into Arizona, Nevada, working with Roger and Colleen and the Re-Indigenizing Minds Project over at the Area 51, all over the place. And so I just wanted to give everybody an opportunity to ask me questions, and we could discuss it live during this Q&A and give you all the opportunity to do that. One of the main focuses that I obviously packaged together for this presentation or for this Q&A was the emphasis on the last few videos that I did up at Mount Wilson Ranch and the discovery out of that book, Fast Walker, that was written by Jacques Vallée. Now, someone in the comment section was really clever, and they actually figured out that Fast Walker, that book by Jacques Vallée, was published 10 years before in French. And so it's even more interesting. That makes it connect even more, because for the story to line up so perfectly with all of the local stories and everything that happened when it's published in English in 1996, how did Jacques Vallée know that entire story about everything that happened at Mount Wilson 10 years before, when he published the book in his native language in French? And so I don't understand that unless he was aware of a secret UFO crash recovery program that happened at the base of a mountain in Nevada at an archaeological dig site a year before the Roswell crash. So the Roswell crash supposedly happened in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947, but the dig, and the archaeological dig, happened with the owner E.L. Norris at Mount Wilson Ranch in Nevada in 1946, a year before. Suddenly in 1949, the owner of Mount Wilson Ranch goes from a nobody to a senator from Nevada, for the entire state. It's totally crazy. And so he went from a nobody to a senator, and right after his archaeological dig at the base of a mountain in Nevada, a year after the Roswell crash happens in New Mexico. And then in 1951, that's why they call it Area 51, is because in 1951 is when apparently it was formed to try and deal with what was recovered at the Roswell crash. I am proposing in this live Q&A and in my previous videos that the actual metamaterials that was sent to Art Bell, that is at the center of these congressional hearings, that was supposed to come from the Roswell crash, was actually recovered metamaterials from the archaeological dig that happened at the top secret site at Mount Wilson, Nevada. And so we're going to go clear back into World War II, and it starts with the race for weapons superiority in World War II. This is before Area 51, before the Roswell crash, before Skinwalker Ranch, before any of this was even a thing. When World War II happened, there was this entire weapons and technology race that kicked off with the Nazis in Germany, the Russians, the Japanese, and the Americans. And by all means, the Russians and the Americans won World War II at the end of that, and it kicked off the Cold War. But at the end of World War II, there was an entire hydra of secret programs that developed at the very tail end of that wasn't just the Manhattan Project and the nuclear programs. There was all sorts of other programs that included the Montauk Project, MJ-12. There was the secret technology race, all the aerospace programs and race, the MK Ultra. There was multiple different aspects of these secret programs, and one of them was Project Paperclip, where they took hundreds of these Nazi research scientists, biologists, doctors, rocket engineers, and everything, and they basically brought them into America and started these secret programs. And one of the things that occurred at that time was the discovery of the Wunderweapon and the Wonder Weapon, this anti-gravity bell-shaped device, or this UFO type of craft that the Germans were supposedly reverse engineering from recovered UFO materials or communication with extraterrestrials or some secret program that they had. And so as a part of this, they actually, in Project Paperclip, they realized all of this, and this initial radar defense system kicked off called Project Bambi. This is the predecessor to the MX missile program and the Star Wars defense program and the nuclear defense programs. Project Bambi was a radar defense system, almost like Israel's Iron Dome. And there was all of these different places that they went and tried to implement this radar defense system. And all over the state of Nevada, properties were bought and purchased to try and install this. And right at the beginning of this is when E.L. Norris owns Mount Wilson Ranch and buys it in the 1930s. He starts an archaeological dig and then becomes a senator by 1949. The metamaterials that turn up that are all part of the U.S. congressional hearing that supposedly came from Roswell actually came from Mount Wilson a year earlier in 1946 as part of that archaeological dig that Bob Lazar references when he talks about the UFO that he saw being from an archaeological dig. And all of these stories about football stadium sized craft going in and out of mountains and hiding under mountains all started at Mount Wilson Ranch in Nevada in 1946. So something happened in the 1940s in Mount Wilson up there. And then Bob Bigelow's entire team goes back up there before owning Skinwalker Ranch and owns it for a full decade with the giant bulldozer up there digging in the ground. And that the same time that they're at Mount Wilson Ranch in 1996, when we have all the photographs of them up there, they actually, the metamaterials show up at Art Bell's desk in a shoebox. The bismuth metamaterial alloys show up in a shoebox at Art Bell's desk on Coast to Coast AM in Las Vegas. And all of that was written about in 1986 in Jacques Vallée's book, Fast Walker, about a ranch in Nevada. And he even says in there that Roswell was a cover-up that they created a year later as a part of the MJ-12 program to hide what actually happened in an archaeological dig in Nevada. That's what the entire book is about. So we have a super chat question and a Patreon question, which is, why are they hiding from everybody? Let me pin this up here. I got to scroll back a little bit. I kind of went off on a rant to answer that clickbait claim. So the bismuth metamaterial is actually in possession of the people at To the Stars Academy with Tom DeLonge. Hal Puthoff has it in his possession, and he is working right next to the ex-CEO and one of the head engineers of Lockheed Martin. All of these congressional hearings are talking about this bismuth metamaterial. And if you go look at a bunch of these recent podcasts and even the shows and interviews with David Grush, it cuts to all these clips of Gary Nolan and Hal Puthoff and all these guys, and they are talking about this bismuth material. There's even interviews that are coming out talking about this bismuth hybrid metamaterial being a living organic thing that has some form of consciousness that's tied to it, even in the small sample, meaning they're getting some sort of conscious active response from testing even the bismuth sample. But being able to study that sample, Lockheed Martin was apparently, and this is very dangerous to even talk about, they were able to, in their top secret programs very early in the 1940s and 50s, were able to reverse engineer and figure out this bismuth alloy, and not only figure out what it did, but use it to make contact as well, and to reverse engineer a whole bunch of our stealth program and our secret aerospace program, which is probably about more like 300 years ahead of what we see right now. But that's all just like out there. But Crazy Scott's asking, why are they hiding from everyone? So I got to clarify, why or who hiding from everyone? The extraterrestrials? I would have to say that, why are they hiding from everybody? I would say that they're really not. I think it comes to a difficulty of a form of lack of communication on our part. I think in a lot of ways, we are primed to be blind to this and be deaf to it, and to not be able to even perceive those spectrums of communication and reality that are constantly around us. So if you look into some of the new research in quantum physics and the nature of reality and consciousness, we learn that our human consciousness is a non-local thing to the body, meaning that what you think of as who you are and the thoughts in your mind aren't just occurring inside your skull and inside your cranium, but are part of an interconnected quantum field that goes beyond time. So all these things that we just consider daydreaming and subconscious thoughts and dreams that we have at night, remote viewing, psychic events, and paranormal phenomena could be very heavily integrated and tied in to what we're experiencing with this and with the true nature of reality that we're just beginning to understand. So that's a really important question. I don't know that they're hiding from us. I think it's more that we are trying to learn through our own evolution and our own waking up to our own human potential, how to make contact. So how I can connect that to Mount Wilson Ranch and back to the metamaterials in a way is that when we go up there, it does appear to be a form of communication that occurs. I don't know if anybody's seen the movie Arrival that has those big stone UFOs that appear, and there's like those strange aliens that almost communicate in Rorschach ink blots, and they have to communicate through that. But as they begin to try and communicate through those ink blots, through those with those extraterrestrials on the craft, they also start to experience these strange dreams and time travel phenomena and this kind of quantum entanglement where all the characters are having these visions of the future and of the past. And all of that is honestly very, very similar to the stories that have been going on and things that I've even personally experienced when I've been up at Mount Wilson, and even the short time that I've been around Skinwalker Ranch, especially the first time that I went there and when I went alone. So yeah, it has been a kind of a crazy experience to all of that. The entire thing that defines this as metamaterial is the fact that it has these exotic, unknown characteristics and qualities to it, enough that it made Lockheed Martin go from nothing to what it is today. And Area 51 went from nothing to becoming Area 51. And it could literally be related to this little chunk of bismuth was actually attached to. So if you remember in the original story, the original piece of bismuth was like a mixed material that had zinc and aluminum and other things that were almost like they were 3D printed into this exotic layering. And then the first person to really test the samples, as far as we know of, was Travis Taylor from Skinwalker Ranch. This is the exact same piece of bismuth metamaterial that now Hal Puthoff, David Grush, Gary Nolan, and all these guys are confident enough to go straight to Congress with Grush and say that this is the metamaterial, this is the real thing. And then just this morning, Jeff sent me an interview of people talking about that this metamaterial has attributes to it in the secret files, that has some kind of DNA infused and imbued into the way it was made. So as far as it just being bismuth, it has organic. This is why when they say there was biologics recovered, they're talking about the same thing, and they're always like and iffy in how they talk about it. So they say they've recovered crashed exotic materials that they don't understand, and they also say that they've recovered biologics, and people want that to be bodies, but it could literally be biological living craft material that we don't understand. Somehow this is embedded with living organics or DNA somehow, and the craft itself is like a living thing. And I've definitely heard that in other people before too. It's a fascinating thing to think about, but when you actually look at the timeline, when it comes to any other location as far as the UFO crash recovery program and the duration and the timeline historically, when you look at Roswell supposedly happened in 1947, but when you go there now, is there a government security building? Is there armed guards there now? Do they have some big archaeological dig where they're trying to comb and study that place for more information scientifically? Or is it just a big dirt field with weeds? It's literally a dirt field with weeds. And so like, there's no armed guards out there. It's not like it's some private scientific research thing where they're looking for stuff underground. When you go to Skinwalker Ranch and you talk about that, it gets more interesting, because there you've actually had a long time standing team of government funded researchers that goes clear back into the 90s, And at that same time, before that, the family that owned Skinwalker Ranch was just the Shermans, and they were cattle ranchers. It wasn't a government research project. There wasn't any mining or archaeological digs going on, none of that. But when you go to Mount Wilson and you go to Nevada, not only do all the historical dates line up with Roswell and Jacques Vallée's books and him in his writings talking about it, Roswell being a cover-up to hide what happened a year before in Nevada, but the dates with the ownership of Nevada happening with him becoming a senator in 1949, 1951, Area 51 forms. And then ever since then, you've got this UFO secret crash recovery program. And tied to that directly is the Wilson Davis memo with Eric Davis, who is one of the main people and main scientists that we see up there with Bob Bigelow at Mount Wilson Ranch. In 1996, the same year that this bismuth magically shows up in the shoebox in Art Bell's desk, and Eric Davis and Hal Puthoff start talking about the MJ-12 program. So the whole thing is definitely suspect. The truth is definitely out there, but I would just say that a lot of the evidence is lining up with not only with what Grush is saying, but what all of the people in these secret programs talk about, with what Tom DeLonge talks about in podcasts and what he writes about in his books, and even what I'm experiencing in these locations, is that the truth isn't just out there as far as up in outer space. I think we have been led to believe that aliens or extraterrestrials come from Mars. And then after that, we've evolved to understand that maybe they come from other solar systems and galaxies. And now we're starting to understand quantum science and these ideas of parallel dimensions or other dimensions of reality that could be like sub-basement frequency dimensions right alongside of us. These are our cousins that live just offside the spectrum of the rainbow, just beyond the infrared, just beyond the ultraviolet, past our spectrum of being able to detect it. But just now, when in recent times, with that development of the technology with Project Bambi, that radar defense system technology, imagine in the 1930s and early 1940s, they turn on this radar defense system to try and detect nuclear missile threats coming in from Russia. And all of a sudden, the thing starts lighting up and saying, active threat. We see a target. There's something coming here. There's something going there. And they're like, so wait, is this wrong? Is the radar defense system actually working, or what's happening here? And then you realize you're catching unidentified flying objects. These aren't from Russia. They aren't from anywhere else. And back then, the original radar defense operators, they nicknamed these objects fast walkers. Now the nickname has developed to this Navajo curse on the ground that is the Skinwalker, but it originally was the fast walkers, and that was the original name. They weren't flying saucers. They weren't unidentified flying objects. They called them fast walkers. And these were objects that were seen by Nellis Air Force Base pilots in the beginning. In the Nellis Air Force Base started like in 1940 or 1941. And like in 1943, 44, the pilots and the radar operators started seeing these fast walkers going past their planes and then going into the bottom of these mountains, like a tunnel opening up and then disappearing. And this all was occurring, I think, at Mount Wilson Ranch, because suddenly you had that guy, the owner, E.L. Norris, becoming a senator. The Project Bambi was up there. The MX missile program was up there. Ronald Reagan's Star Wars program was up there. And then Bigelow buys the place and does operations up there for like 10 years, the same time that the metamaterials recovered.
All right, we're doing good, guys. Quick intermission to tell you guys about my Patreon page and the Mount Wilson Ranch Patreon page. On my Carl Crusher Patreon, you can join for $10 a month, and that gives you exclusive Inner Circle membership and access to be able to chat with me and get all these behind-the-scenes clips and exclusive videos and content that you don't get to see anywhere else, or way ahead of time, sometimes months ahead of time before I upload them anywhere. And also, with that $10 a month, you can set up and plan to come out on private meetups and VIP tours and guided experiences where we go out to ancient petroglyph sites. And I'm even creating some new ones where you can go gold mining or even go UTV tour riding out to these ancient locations all across southern Utah, Arizona, and Nevada. We've even got an option there called the Skinwalker Mega Hunt, where I'll go up to Vernal and show you everything that I can take you and personally show you in and around Skinwalker Ranch and the whole circumference as close as we can get. And I'll personally meet you up there and show you around the whole place. There's a lot of options like that. And if there isn't anything that you see there that you want to do as kind of a meetup or have me come and special guest at one of your events, just let me know. Start with the $10 Inner Circle membership, and then we'll go from there. So make sure and check out my Patreon, join for $10, and then you can plan future trips from there. Also, go over to the Mount Wilson Ranch Patreon because they have all the rooms available that you can rent and do the same thing there. So join for $10 and then talk to the managers of the website and of Patreon, and you can arrange a custom guided trip or tour where you even have Jeff and I go there, and we'll do meetups at Area 51 up at Mount Wilson Ranch, and you can come and see all these places for yourself. All right, let's get back to the show.
We need to start looking for bismuth, and the initial whistleblower that sent us the photographs of Bigelow at Mount Wilson Ranch that really unlocked a lot of this for us. One of the main things that he said to us on that phone call, he said, listen, all you guys have to do is find the metamaterial. If you can get your hands on more metamaterial, you're going to change the world. And he basically said that to us. It's like, none of this other shit matters. If you guys find more metamaterial, no one will be able to say anything else. But here's the problem, is all of our evidence and our research shows that this metamaterial could literally be over 200 feet down in a difficult to access tunnel system that has been covered up with decoys, and we've gotten all kinds of information and some false information that we have to comb through. It's not just as simple as digging a hole open, but I promise you we already have. We have dug open at the plausible tunnel entrance. I can't be too specific, but the History Channel did come back up there with the Beyond Skinwalker Ranch team, and we did attack the main tunnel entrance. We brought up probably $1 million worth of digging and tunnel equipment and drill equipment and drones, ground penetrating radar, magnetometers, and all kinds of stuff up there. And all of that's going to come out in June. I am able to give some of the behind the scenes and sneak peeks again on my Patreon because it's more private and contractual, but a lot of that I'm basically trying to bring that all out here. So Linda Moulton Howe got the metamaterials from Art Bell. She gave some of them to Hal Puthoff and the others to Travis Taylor. I was told by Travis Taylor specifically in a text that he studied them, filmed those videos, and sent the video and the samples back to Linda, and then they went to Hal Puthoff after that. The other metamaterials, as far as I know, I can't validate this or not, is they came from Chris Bledsoe's backyard. Chris Bledsoe and his son, when they had an encounter, an abduction experience, when a UFO basically was leaving their backyard, this slag fell off the back, they recovered it, and Lou Elizondo came and took it, and all of that, including the metamaterials from Linda Moulton Howe, are now all at To the Stars Academy with Tom DeLonge and the former executive and engineer from Lockheed Martin, which is literally all these guys are the central focus of the U.S. congressional hearings and David Grush going in front of Congress and these Senate hearings and everybody coming out of these private meetings behind closed doors in the skiffs and talking about this stuff, trying to solve this metamaterial and biologics project. But nobody, why can't they say, where did it come from? Everybody's talking about, okay, where is the craft? Where did they take it? Yeah, it's at Lockheed Martin, Lockheed at this specific place, and that's where they have it. And that whole cover-up started the secret space program and UFO crash reverse engineering program, but where did they get it from? And everything that I've been able to uncover says that it came from an actual archaeological dig, from a tunnel system, from an ancient ritual site or an ancient location, not from a crash that fell out of the sky. Either that, or it was something that was brought down by that initial radar defense system, and it happened in Nevada, not in New Mexico. So if Roswell looked like it was a balloon with tinfoil and the whole thing was a cover-up, and it all seems fishy that they posted the article and came out with it, and then there was nothing that goes on there, there's probably a good reason for that, because it actually probably happened somewhere else, not from a crash from the sky, but from an archaeological dig out of the ground, where this was either an entire craft was taken and recovered, or a piece was taken off of one, or that small piece was flaked off and used and sent to Art Bell later, or Bob Bigelow's team, when they went back up in the 1990s to Mount Wilson Ranch, got some more of it, and they kept some of those samples and they sent it to Art Bell. And now all of this is going on with Gary Nolan, David Grush, and Hal Puthoff, and these guys all going up to Congress trying to convince them that they need to change the laws around safety for whistleblowers and witnesses to UFOs. So where I found all of this is by going to Mount Wilson Ranch itself, going to Skinwalker Ranch, reading all of the historical records in the books, and just making this my life mission. It really is. I know that Valet's book says that it's all fiction, but the names in the book, the dates, the events and everything that happened, and even the days and times that he published it, and when the metamaterials all occurred, is still like it's truth. And when you look and listen to what Tom DeLonge says, working with Hal Puthoff, he started a media entertainment company called To the Stars Academy that has a whole entertainment division that even makes cartoons and music videos and everything. And they see that as a form of disclosure. So the fictional books by Jacques Vallée and the shows and even the music from Blink 182 talking about aliens are all part of this plan for disclosure, apparently. Tom DeLonge even has books that they've published out of there that are all fictional, that talk about UFO reverse engineering programs at Area 51 and test flights and encounters with real UFOs at the exact same time. And these are all fictional books. But when you listen to him talk on like the Steve-O podcast and stuff, he flat out, says that their whole plan was to start this entertainment and media company to put out these movies, entertainment, and music to try and prepare humanity for the truth of what extraterrestrials are, and that they're not coming from outer space, but they're more like ultra terrestrials. They've always been here. They live in this sub-dimension or frequency alongside of us, and they've been interacting with us since the beginning of time. And the ancient indigenous records, including the petroglyphs and everything that goes back tens of thousands of years, down even all the ancient pyramid builds and everything, and all these cultures that seem to be inexplainable to us, suddenly makes sense when this interaction through consciousness and meditation and geomancy and these pyramid builds and ancient rituals and things suddenly connected with this type of dimension of reality. And we're just now somehow remembering and figuring this out today. If you go in the links down in the description below, you'll find my link tree and the one for Mount Wilson Ranch. So you can follow all of my links everywhere and Mount Wilson's everywhere, and even go to the Mount Wilson Patreon, where you can become a member there and even get a room and go stay and see the place yourself. So if you want to go look for metamaterials, try to find bismuth and get a metal detector, you can even go on there and get a room and go to Mount Wilson and stay there yourself. So it's completely open opportunity to do that. So I appreciate you guys a whole bunch. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one. Let's watch this intro one more time on the way out, just so we can soak it all back in.
But another anomaly was that the bismuth magnesium layer.
Basically, I've exhausted every resource that I have ever tried to use in the past.
where it talks about not made by human hands, not of this earth, and so on.
These are 13 pages of typed notes written by Dr. Eric Davis in 2002 when he was a member of the National Institute of Discovery Science, that's NIDS, owned and managed by billionaire Robert Bigelow.
One of his pieces that we looked at together when I visited was magnesium bismuth.
Bismuth layers less than a human hair, supposedly picked up in the crash retrieval of an advanced aerospace vehicle.
And study pieces of material that may have been stashed away for decades after being retrieved from the sites of close encounters. Elizondo says there are legitimate reasons why the military and now private groups are in a race to figure out these materials.